For a hotel, Airbnb or VRBO, read the accessibility information and contact the property owner when the listing leaves questions. Ask about stairs, thresholds, toilet height, the shower or tub, parking, and the walking distance from the car. Are you ready to get back to what you love after knee replacement? The Total Knee Success Podcast is your trusted guide with practical tips, evidence-based strategies, and no fluff. It's not personal medical advice, just solid education to help you manage pain, regain mobility, and get back to living the life you love. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Total Knee Success Podcast. I'm Michelle. If a road trip is on your calendar after knee replacement, you may be excited to get away and a little concerned about how your knee will handle the drive. That makes sense. A longer drive involves much more sitting than a quick trip across town, and thoughtful planning can help you arrive with enough energy to enjoy the destination. This episode begins our second Returning to Meaningful Activities series focused on travel and outdoor activity. The next episodes will cover flying, hiking, and returning to a bicycle. Today, we're headed out on the road. By the end of this episode, you'll know what to ask your healthcare team before a long drive, what can help when your knee feels stiff or swollen in the car, and how to plan the vehicle stops, luggage, lodging, and first evening of the trip. I'm going to tell you about Dave. Dave is not a real person, but his story is based on situations people face after knee replacement. He had his left knee replaced 8 weeks ago and was planning a summer road trip with his wife from Indiana to several national parks out west. This was a multi-day drive, and Dave wanted to take his turn behind the wheel of their automatic SUV. He had already stopped taking prescription pain medication that could impair driving several weeks earlier, and his surgeon had cleared him to drive weeks ago. He was comfortable on local trips of about 20 minutes. He was given the okay for this vacation. But the longer trip added hours of sitting, repeated stops, hotel stays, luggage, and several driving days in a row. Dave and his wife gave themselves more time than the navigation estimate and kept the first day flexible. His left knee felt stiff after sitting, so each stop took extra time. He needed a little time to bend and straighten his knee, stand, and walk before getting into the SUV. By the end of the day, his knee and ankle were more swollen, and he had less energy left when they arrived. A few choices they made ahead of time helped the trip go well. There's no single week after knee replacement when a long car trip works for everyone. For Dave, traveling at 8 weeks was reasonable, based on his medical history, his progress, his driving ability, the vehicle, and the plan he had discussed with his surgeon. At 8 weeks post-op, another person may have a different medication plan, level of mobility, health conditions, or blood clot risk, so the timing of the long trip may be different. Can I travel is a good question. Add the details so your surgeon can answer it in a useful way. Tell them where you're going, how many hours you expect to travel each day, whether you'll drive or ride, how remote the route will be, and what kind of activity you hope to do when you arrive. Ask how your personal risk factors and current stage of healing might affect the trip. Dave's local driving gave him a starting point. A full travel day adds fatigue, changing traffic, and much more time with your knee bent. Safe driving requires enough motion and strength to operate the vehicle, the ability to react quickly, and the attention to respond when traffic changes. Because Dave had a left knee replacement and drove an automatic vehicle, his surgical leg was not operating the gas and brake pedals. He still needed to get in and out safely, sit with his knee bent for some longer periods of time, turn to check traffic, and stay comfortable enough to control the vehicle. With a manual transmission, Dave would have used his left leg to operate the clutch every time he changed gears, adding repeated work for his surgical leg throughout the drive, and was happy he chose the automatic transmission. Studies of brake response time after knee replacement have focused heavily on right-sided surgery because the right leg usually controls the gas and brake in cars, trucks, and SUVs. The studies show that braking ability changes after surgery and improves over time, with considerable variation among people and study methods. A study average doesn't tell us when one person is ready. The ability to drive safely also depends on the individual's medication use, reaction time, strength, motion, comfort, attention, and control of the specific vehicle. Dave was already comfortable with the SUV because he had been driving locally. Before the road trip, he and his wife made sure his usual seat position left enough room to move his left knee during a longer drive, and they placed his cane within reach at the foot of the back seat. Seat height, door width, legroom, and a stable place to hold can change how easy it is to enter and exit a vehicle. A very low seat may require more knee bend and more effort to stand. A high step into a truck can be challenging to climb up into. If the vehicle you own is a poor fit for a long trip, renting one with a better seat height and easier access may be worth considering. About an hour into the first day, Dave's left knee began to feel stiff, so he made sure to pump his ankle and move his knee during the drive. After knee replacement, the healing tissues around your knee may still be sensitive to staying in one position. Sitting keeps your knee bent, the muscles in your leg are less active, and the normal movement that helps circulate fluid throughout the joint and leg is reduced. That combination can make your knee feel tight, and the first few steps after getting out of the car may feel stiff or less steady than usual. Dave and his wife had identified several service areas along the route and left room to stop sooner when needed. This gave them choices without putting the trip on a rigid timer. They looked for places with paved parking, easy restroom access, and enough space for Dave to get some walking in and move around safely. At the first stop, Dave turned in the seat, placed both feet securely, and stood. He took a moment to adjust to standing, bent and straightened his knee a few times, and waited till his knee felt ready to move. Then he walked to the restroom with his wife, and they took their time getting back to the SUV. Movement during a long travel day also connects to blood clot prevention. A deep vein thrombosis, or DVT, is a clot in a deep vein, usually in the leg. Knee replacement temporarily raises the risk, especially closer to surgery. Longer periods of sitting add more time with the leg relatively still, which reduces the muscle pumping action that helps move blood back toward the heart. Risk changes and generally decreases with time after surgery and varies from person to person. Your clinician may give you specific instructions based on your history and risk factors. Follow the plan you were given for medication, compression garments, and activity. During stops, bending and straightening your knee and spending some time on your feet may help you avoid one long stretch of sitting, as long as those activities fit your current instruction and abilities. By early afternoon, Dave noticed more fullness around his knee and ankle. During a car ride, your foot remains below your heart for long stretches. Gravity pulls fluid toward the lower part of your leg, where your calf muscles are doing less of the pumping that normally helps move blood and fluid back toward your heart. That combination can make swelling around your knee, lower leg, and ankle more noticeable as the day goes on. Look at when the swelling started, how quickly it changed, and what other symptoms are present. A gradual increase after hours in the car may respond to the strategies you already use, like elevation and ankle pumps or circles. Later in the episode, I'll explain which changes warrant prompt medical attention. If pain, tightness, or changing symptoms are difficult to sort out, my concise book, Making Sense of Pain After Knee Replacement, explains how to look at the pattern, timing, and context of symptoms after knee replacement. It's for educational purposes only, and the link is in the show notes if you'd like to take a look. Compression garments are appropriate for some people and unnecessary or unsuitable for others. You may already have stockings provided by the hospital or recommended by your clinician. If you buy another pair, make sure you match the type and millimeters of mercury, or mmHg, that your clinician recommended. More pressure can be inappropriate, and fit is important. I'll link a few compression sock options in the show notes, so you can compare them if and only if compression is already part of your plan and you've been advised to use them by your clinician. Some show note links are Amazon affiliate links. If you purchase through one of those links, I may earn a small commission at no additional cost to you. Thank you. Medication use needs the same individual approach. Know whether anything you take can impair alertness, reaction time, or judgment. Keep medications in their original containers. Follow the prescribed schedule and store them where they remain accessible and at an appropriate temperature. Do not drive after taking a medication that impairs you. Make sure you ask the prescribing clinician or pharmacist before changing the dose or timing of any medication. Hydration was another part of Dave's travel plan. He continued drinking water throughout the day, and the bathroom stops gave him another chance to get out of the SUV and move. If you have a condition that affects how much fluid you should drink, such as a heart or kidney condition, make sure you follow the instructions from your healthcare provider while traveling. Once fuel, meals, traffic, restrooms, and time to move were included, each driving day took longer than the map estimate. At 8 weeks post-op, that extra time reflected where Dave was in his healing. As strength, endurance, motion, and tolerance for longer days improve, future trips may require fewer adjustments. For this trip, Dave and his wife allowed enough flexibility for a slower lunch or an extra stop so he could move his leg more. They also changed how they packed. Dave kept medication, water, a light layer, and anything he might need during the day in a small bag that was easy to reach. His wife handled the heavier suitcase, and they used luggage carts at the hotels. If you handle a bag, keep it close to you and avoid combining a deep bend with a quick turn. Let someone else take the heavy lifting early on after surgery when help is available. The lodging deserved as much attention as the drive. Dave and his wife checked hotel listings for elevators, accessible parking, bathroom features, and the distance from the entrance to the room. For a hotel, Airbnb or VRBO, read the accessibility information and contact the property owner when the listing leaves questions. Ask about stairs, thresholds, toilet height, the shower or tub, parking, and the walking distance from the car. In the United States, the Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA, was enacted in 1990 to prohibit discrimination against people with disabilities and improve access to public accommodations, including covered hotels and other places of lodging. Even with those requirements, the word accessible can refer to different features. Short-term rentals vary more, and the ADA does not cover owner-occupied establishments renting 5 or fewer rooms. At the end of their first day, Dave's knee felt stiff and he was tired. They had kept the evening open, so his wife handled check-in while Dave took a few minutes outside the car to stand and move before going inside. They used a luggage cart, chose dinner at the hotel, and saved sightseeing for the next morning. He had time to settle in and follow the swelling strategies already recommended by his healthcare team. That first evening became their pattern. On later days, they chose shorter driving stretches when they planned to walk more at the next park. They used park shuttles when available and picked overlooks and trails that fit what Dave could comfortably do at 8 weeks post-op. One morning, they reached an overlook early before the parking area filled. Dave walked from the car, took in the view, and stayed long enough to enjoy it without watching the clock. Later that afternoon, his knee felt fuller, so they chose a scenic drive and stopped at 2 overlooks rather than adding another trail. The adjustment kept the day enjoyable and gave them plenty to talk about over dinner. By the third driving day, Dave knew what the first stop would feel like. He allowed time for his knee to loosen before walking away from the SUV, and his wife already had the water and snacks. Their routine became easier because they had learned what his knee needed during this particular trip. Dave and his wife shared the driving and reached the parks they had been looking forward to seeing. He enjoyed the scenery and still had enough energy for the experiences they had planned. Giving themselves extra time, choosing lodging with the features Dave needed, having his wife handle the heavier bags, and keeping the first evenings flexible helped the trip go well. I'll link a list of optional travel items in the show notes, including small travel pillows, coolers for cold packs, rolling luggage, and compression socks. The list gives you one place to compare options. Choose only what fits the guidance you've received and the way you travel. A road trip after knee replacement can be a wonderful way to get back to the people, places, and activities you value. Start with guidance that fits your health and stage of healing. Test the vehicle, leave room for stops, plan the lodging and arrival, and give yourself enough time to really enjoy the destination. Part of planning the trip is knowing which symptoms need medical attention. Seek medical attention right away for new or one-sided calf pain or swelling, unusual warmth or discoloration, or a sudden worsening that concerns you. Chest pain and shortness of breath, among other worsening symptoms, require emergency evaluation. In episode 102, the second episode in this Returning to Meaningful Activities series, we'll cover flying after knee replacement. We'll look at getting through the airport, security screening, seating, luggage, movement during the flight, and general information about prolonged sitting and blood clot risk during air travel. Remember that travel after knee replacement is possible, but it requires some additional considerations, especially early on. Thanks for joining me. I'm Michelle, and this has been the Total Knee Success Podcast. This podcast is for educational purposes only. Discover more at totalkneesuccess.com, and be sure to subscribe and share because every step forward takes you closer to living the life you love.